Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. Disappearing Theater Couple by Barkela. To preface this story, I do not believe in ghosts or anything paranormal, but this is something I fully cannot explain. This is a slightly longer story, but I'll do my best to keep it brief while still providing the greatest detail possible. In case anyone is wondering, I have never taken any drugs and was over 16 for everything discussed. For context, I have worked in a movie theater for around 8 years. In late 2017, I received a promotion to manager and began to close the building at night. In short, besides office work, all that's required to close is to go through each auditorium in the theater and check to make sure nobody is still there. The first time anything unexplainable occurred was January 8, 2018. I was making my rounds as usual, checking each theater to make sure everyone had left. When I got to auditorium number 9, one of the last ones left to check, I began to walk up the walkway towards the seats when I heard voices. I didn't think much of it, but was slightly annoyed as the last movie had played in that auditorium had ended nearly 2 hours prior to my check. It isn't incredibly rare for people to have long conversations after the movies had ended, but 2 hours is a long time. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but I could tell they were a group of 2, a man and a woman. As I approached the end of the walkway and near the corner to look up at the seats, the couple must have heard my footsteps or keys, because I clearly heard the man say, "Hold on." I turned the corner and began to say something about us being closed and them needing to head out. Upon looking up at the seats, I realized nobody was there. I swear to God, I checked behind every seat in that auditorium and behind the screen. Absolutely nothing. Besides the entrance to the auditorium where I was walking up, the only other exits are 2 alarmed emergency doors on either side of the screen that lead outside. No alarms were set off, and I checked to make sure both were functioning. Finally, I checked if, for any reason, there was some audio playing in the auditorium. The projector had completed its closing shutdown an hour and a half before I was in the theater. While still having no concrete explanation, I chalked it up to being tired and convinced myself I was just hearing things. Fast forward to a year later with nothing strange happening, and the second incident occurred. This night, instead of checking each auditorium on the ground level, I chose instead to look in through the small windows in the booth, the upstairs area containing the projectors. While the view of the auditorium below isn't perfect, the top-down view is still enough to tell if any stragglers are still hanging around. I got to auditorium number 9 and peered in. I noticed a couple holding hands in the middle 2 seats of the middle row. I could only barely make out the top of their heads above the seats, and their holding hands resting on the cup holders separating them. Again, I was slightly annoyed as the last movie had broken hours prior. But at that point, I had drawn no parallels between this night and the previous, 1 year sooner. Due to there being an employee staircase directly next to my location, the booth, it took me about 45 seconds to get to the auditorium. Walking up, I heard the muffled voices of a man and a woman, and at this point, there was a certain degree of deja vu. Sure enough, upon nearing the corner, I heard the man say, "Hold on." Immediately realizing the similarities, I paused, took a breath, and turned the corner. Nobody was there. I freaked out, checked under every seat behind the screen, and both alarm doors were not triggered. Furthermore, I knew for a fact the projector was shut down as I had been in the booth 2 minutes prior. This time, I took a step further in my search for an answer. I checked every exit camera in the entire theater, and there was nothing. I checked the outdoor cameras that view the exit doors of the auditorium. Again, nothing. Finally, I looked at the assigned seating chart for the last show in the auditorium. It was a Hindi language Bollywood movie that had sold no tickets that day. Needless to say, I was incredibly uncomfortable and only got worse when I realized the date. I shit you not, it was January 8th, 2019. I confirmed the first time was the same date by checking a text conversation I had with a coworker that night, joking about how I was losing it tonight after the first incident. Again, I do not believe in ghosts or the paranormal, but ever since the second incident, I have not checked auditorium number 9 on January the 8th. I have thought about this a lot since and still have no possible clue as to what may have occurred. None of my fellow managers have experienced this, but I have also been the only one working the closing shift on January the 8th for the last 5 years straight. If anyone has any theories, I'd be more than interested in hearing them. I recognize this story could possibly be posted on r/paranormal, but I really don't believe anything paranormal occurred here. I can provide any further details that are requested, but I'm not willing to share any information on where my location is or what company I work for. Edit. To clarify, when I say I don't believe in ghosts or paranormal, I more so mean the horror sense. Stuff like horror movies haunting, throwing chairs, leaving messages in blood, that sort of thing. The Ghost Adventure TV show, for example. The idea of a moment or event being locked in time or souls unable to fully move on for whatever reason is something I am open to. I haven't considered it here. I apologize for the closed-minded wording in my original post and will avoid that if I ever need to post again. Thank you everyone that mentioned this. Mama, I'm home! My son cries, throwing his arms around my middle, pressing his teary face to my body with a force that almost knocks me over. No matter how many times I kill him, destroy his body in different, horrifying ways, he keeps finding his way home, keeps trying to get back to where he started. In just a few minutes, Gone by Anonymoose. Okay, I'm really freaking out. I know I've had glitches in the past, but it's been a while. My apartment overlooks a big freeway. My bathroom and kitchen window, you can see everything on the freeway. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen horrific wrecks that have shook my place. When I went to use the restroom, my toilet is right there at the window, so you'll always see what's going on. I came across 5 cop cars, 1 wrecker, fire trucks, and 2 cars. The first car was white, and then about 8 feet behind it was another car. The wrecker was in front of everything and hadn't even dropped the bed or anything like that. Normally I just glance over and feel shitty at what I'm seeing and move on. This time was different because it looked like there was a bunch of rescue people on the car in the back, and there were stuff they were pulling out all over the ground. But the cars didn't look wrecked, and normally there isn't this many cop cars unless it's a crime. However, I can't see that good because I need my glasses to see the small details, and I was curious what they were doing in that car, and what was on the ground. Was it a shooting? Another weird thing is, I didn't hear any wreck like I normally do or anything until I looked out the window. So I thought, I'm gonna run out to my car and get my glasses, because I use them for driving. As I went down, I also passed my kitchen window and saw all the red lights flashing. Just a few seconds to go down the stairs and a few more seconds to my car to get my glasses. Came back in a matter of 2 minutes tops and then looked out the window, and all of it was gone. There was no evidence of anything, not even debris on the ground. There is no way that one wrecker that didn't even have its bed down moved 2 cars. No way that all of this stuff that was pulled out of that car would have been put back completely in with no trace, gone in 2 minutes. What the heck just happened? The feeling you get when something like this happens to you is a split second of, did I just lose time? And no, I'm not crazy. Did any of this really happen? About 20 years ago, I had another experience living by the freeway with another wreck, but nothing like this, but still crazy. What happened was I heard a wreck, called it in, and they came out. The person was deceased. I watched them clean it all up and went to bed. Then, 30 minutes later, heard a wreck, jumped back up and looked out my window, and it looked like the exact same wreck. I called this one in too, and I even told them there was a prior wreck the exact same way on this location. And then I started questioning 911, asking, did they properly clean up the area? As I watched the second wreck, it was pretty much identical. The person was deceased in the exact same way the first person died. In the morning, I checked out the news, and what happened was both cars went up the wrong way ramp at the same location, hours apart, and both got decapitated in the same spot. The ramp appears to have no problems or indicators that would have directed people onto it instead of off. I knew then that something weird happened that's unexplainable. Edit. Okay, even more messed up, I just checked our city's activity incident report and it's not on there. I would say it looked like between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. Look at the time and date when I posted this. Nope, not on there. There is a freeway report, but it's not the area that it happened. My wife's office is in our basement. Whenever I walk past, she plays a prank where she turns off the lights and waits at the bottom of the steps and just stares. I woke up at midnight and kissed my wife on the forehead. I went to go get myself a glass of water, only to see her at the bottom of the basement steps. Couple Cut and Paste by BMC25. This is a recent story. I've managed to, hopefully, be able to articulate this as it's somewhat a logic-based. So, I live close to an intersection of two main roads, Road A heading north-south, and Road B heading west-east. I live on Road A. On the corner of the intersection is a collection of 3 small shops that share the same building. I live 2 driveways up from that, roughly about 250 meters from the intersection. My sister lives off a service road of Road B about 10 houses up, roughly about 450 meters from the intersection. I know this is specific, but it is relevant. It's about a 6-minute walk from my house to hers. The walk to the entrance of the service road would be about a 4 to 5 minute walk. Not to mention, there is a relative incline at the beginning of Road B. I had to run to my sister's house as she tends to borrow things without telling me and forgets to bring them back. I needed to grab my vacuum. I went to get in my car and remembered that it was bin day. I proceeded to grab my bin and began walking it to the side of the road, where at the end of my driveway there was a couple walking by heading up my street, north, away from the intersection. A man in a green tracksuit, which I thought to be quite the look for a man of his age. The woman was in a similar pink tracksuit. They looked to be in their later years, I say late 60s. After a polite little back and forth, you go, no, you go, I allowed them to pass first. I rolled my bin to the curb and got in my car and pulled to the end of my driveway to do a loop through the 2 back roads to avoid traffic lights and cars, etc. The old left and left again if you're in Australia. I have timed the trip. It takes approximately 1 minute and 25 seconds to make the car ride. I'd be happy to give it 2 minutes if it was busy and I can't turn onto the Road B immediately from the back road. However, it wasn't busy as it was 11 a.m. on a Sunday. As I turned left out of my driveway, I saw the couple had proceeded maybe another 50 meters before crossing the street now from the left side, which we were originally on, to the right side of the road, and stopped to look at some furniture that was on the street for hard rubbish collection. I proceeded with my 1.5 minute drive to my sister's when pulling into the service road, who do I see? The couple in their tracksuit now heading towards my sister's house. Now, I know it's them because again, I had to stop and let them pass as the service road is gravel. And to avoid a large pothole, you need to drive slightly on the footpath, so I have a good 5 to 10 seconds to take this all in before I can drive past. I stop at my sister's driveway, very confused as I get out and open her gate. They walk past with no interaction at all. Even if it was possible that these people are marathon sprinters who were heading north and a minute later were heading west and uphill without breaking a single sweat in their 60s, covering a distance that even me as a 27-year-old female couldn't cover in that time. I had literally just interacted with them within minutes and they acted like I was a stranger. I do know I am a stranger, but not even confusion. I'm just like, they were literally copied and pasted and I just can't work it out. I have gotten my sister to walk from the spot I last saw them towards her house from where I turned down the first side street, and she can't make it there before me without breaking into a sprint. So Mr. Green and his wife, if you were using bolts in disguise, you got me. If not, your programmer's messed up. I told the mother that there was only room for her and one of her children in the lifeboat. The look on her husband and 4 children's face as she picked up the cat and jumped into the boat without looking back. Missing Jersey by Dream43. Strange experience. My son is on 2 baseball teams this season, a little league/rec team and a travel team. Husband was folding some laundry in our back room, said he had our son's baseball jersey for an upcoming weekend of travel games. I go into the room to retrieve the jersey and realize it's his rec team jersey, blue plus white, and not his travel team jersey, bright green. And then remember that the green one is hanging in his closet, as it has been the first thing I see every time I step into his room and pass by his closet. I've been seeing this jersey untouched for weeks. It's the first one hanging in front of a handful of others, older jerseys. You can't miss it. I take the blue and white jersey from my husband's hand and go to hang it in my son's closet to swap it out with the green travel jersey that I know is hanging there. I walk in and I'm baffled. It's not there. I hung the blue and white jersey up, so now it's the first thing you see as you walk into the room and pass by the closet, and rifle through the 60 other jerseys on the rack to make sure the green one didn't get hung up between the others. It's simply not there. I look through a few other items on top of the dresser just below it. It's not there either. I'm starting to get pissed. Where the heck did it go? My son hasn't even worn or needed this jersey yet, so there's no reason for it not to be on the rack. I look through all of his drawers and every other conceivable place it might be. Nothing. After hearing me starting to get progressively more stressed about not finding it, and as I've gone through the rack several times, my husband enters the room, and he too rifles through the handful of jerseys hanging on the rack to no avail. My husband stands back a foot or 2 from the closet, just kind of looking at me as he ponders where it could have gone, and I literally am in the middle of saying, it feels like it just disappeared, when we both suddenly look back and the freaking bright green jersey is now, all of a sudden, sitting right there in front of us, on the gosh darn rack and directly in front of the blue and white jersey. Nothing else in front of it, like it's been hanging there all along. Now, I'm a total believer in such things like glitch in the Matrix, but my husband leans to a much more rational direction. He admits he has absolutely no rational explanation for what the heck happened in this situation. We literally were staring at the rack with the blue and white jersey in the front, looking away for a moment, and when we looked back, the green jersey appeared in its place. I lie next to my human to keep her warm and safe. I know she can't see the thing floating above her head, so I'll do my best to keep her safe from it. I float above my human to keep her warm and safe. I know she can't see the thing lying next to her, so I'll do my best to keep her safe from it. I glitched into a different timeline's bathroom by TaniaHylian. So this past winter, I, a 27 female, went with my mom on vacation to a very small town in the middle of a huge ecological park that consists of kilometers upon kilometers of desert. It's not the first time we've gone there on vacations. We just love how calm and quiet it is, the beautiful scenery, and the kind of people who live in that town. Now, since it's a very small town, there's just one hotel with 5 rooms and 3 bathrooms. 2 of these 3 bathrooms are inside the restaurant that's attached to the hotel, and to get to them from any of the rooms, you have to pass various sets of doors. Because of this, at night we only use the other bathroom, which was a metal door on the other side of a small patio. I remember that the first day at the hotel I went to use the bathroom, and when I tried to close the door, I couldn't close it fully because there was a crack on the wall the door was attached to. There had been an earthquake a few years prior, which was probably the culprit for this crack. Since the last time we stayed at the hotel many years ago, it wasn't there. As a result, we had to tie string from the lock to a nail in the wall inside the bathroom in order to close it. And even then, it never fully closed. It annoyed me, but we weren't paying much and we were the only ones staying at the hotel anyways. Well, here's how the glitch happened. It was our 3rd day staying at the hotel, and we had just come back from walking up a nearby mountain. Very small, the walk barely lasts an hour. It was still fairly early night, around 10 p.m., and my mom said she was going to get ready for bed. I told her to go ahead because I wanted to stargaze for a little while, taking advantage of the cloudless sky. I did so for about half an hour or so before deciding it was time to also get ready for bed. I went to our room, got my toothbrush and toothpaste, and then went to the bathroom. As soon as I stepped inside, everything felt off. I reached for the light switch, but it wasn't there. I searched for it to no avail, and then, when my eyes got used to the darkness, I saw it was on the opposite wall, the one that had a crack, except when I turned the light, I realized there was no crack, as so I was able to close the door perfectly, and there was no string or nail to tie it in place. It was as if I was in an entirely different bathroom. But everything else was the same. The ties on the wall, the slightly rusted mirror, the cheap-looking hand shower, the white sink with a pink soap. Everything was the same as I remember it, except for the cracked wall and the light switch. It was as if, for the time I took to wash my teeth, I was in an alternate timeline in which the earthquake didn't happen. The wall didn't crack, and the light switch didn't move to another wall. It was a very surreal experience, and the more I stayed there, the more nervous I became. So I hurried up, turned off the light, and pretty much sprinted towards my room. My mom was already asleep, so I decided not to bother her. But it took a while before I could sleep because I was feeling very unnerved. The next day, with the sun now illuminating everything, I went back to check on the bathroom that had scared me so much the previous night. But it was exactly as it should be, crack and all. I haven't been able to make sense of the situation despite how much I've thought about it. I woke up from a terrifying nightmare and immediately snuggled closer to my husband. I was so pleased to feel his cold, lifeless body still laying next to me. Time Loop by Mystery Chick 88. Something happened a few years back that I can't shake and really would love some kind of explanation as to what the hell happened, as it has played on my mind ever since. Let me clarify before I start. I'm completely sound of mind. I just want some closure, I guess. So, here it goes. I have always been into the paranormal as a kid. I was completely fascinated by it. And I have found over the years, the more open to it you are, the more downright bizarre some of the stuff you experience is. This tops my list of weird experiences. This happened about 7 years ago. My sister came to my flat one night after work. She finishes work at 5:30 p.m. to spend a bit of time with me, as we had both been working like crazy and hadn't had the time to catch up. It was just the two of us, and she suggested having a game of cards with our coffees, something we had always done since kids. It is our favorite pastime in our house. Once I had gotten the cards out and started shuffling them, she asked me to look at the time on my phone, as she had to work the next morning at 7 a.m. and needed to be home for a reasonable time. She had lost her phone on a night out a few days previously. I told her it was 6:10 p.m. in the evening. She replied, "Okay, well, I'll have to get off around 8:45 to get my uniform washed and dried. So keep an eye on the time for me." I agreed, and we started playing a bit of rummy to start with. Now, we weren't drinking alcohol or taking any drugs. We were just having a relaxing game of cards, chatting about guys and work. The usual stuff, I suppose. Everything was normal. We played cards for what felt like 2 hours easily. I mean, you can't mistake the length of time when you've had about 16 to 18 hands of rummy, and we're in the early stages of playing a game of poker, having got bored of the other game. Out of nowhere, I remember having the weirdest feeling coming over me, like light in the room dimmed, and I distinctly felt an electric crack start at the bottom of my spine and shoot all the way up to my skull. I physically jolted upright. The sensation was so intense. I looked at her, and she was looking at me all wide-eyed and silent, like she knew something was up. I blurted out, "Something is wrong. Really, very wrong." Without blinking or reacting any other way, she just says to me, "Look at the time," which I thought was the weirdest response. I pick up my phone, look at the time. A mixture of shock and dread creeps over me. That can't be right. It's not possible. I mumble out loud. My phone must have glitched out or something. Getting up to turn the telly on to see what the time is on there, she's looking at me like, what the hell is going on? "What is it? What's the time?" she asked me again. I just repeat that I can't be right as I switch the telly on and the time flashes up in the corner of the screen. It says 6:29 p.m. She sees it and is now just as freaked out as I am. "That can't be right. Did your phone say the same time?" I showed her the screen. I pulled out a laptop to check the time and even got a watch out of my drawer to see if they all matched. And sure enough, they did. There was no possible way that we had been sat playing cards for just 20 minutes. I asked her how long she thought we had been sat in there for, and she said a couple of hours, like myself. We just sat there in a bit of a fog, like what on earth had just happened? We tried to discuss it, but we couldn't make any sense of it. To be honest, it felt uncomfortable. Even to this day, to talk about it, it doesn't feel right. She breaks the silence with a joke, something like, "Oh well, at least I have another couple hours to chill with you." We just tried to forget about it. I'm just wondering if anyone had any ideas as to what it was. I'm sorry for the long story. Carbon monoxide detectors worked fine, and I have a frequent gas checks as was policy by the landlord. Sorry, but your application has been rejected. Although your resume includes many strengths, your contribution to society were ultimately not enough to earn a portion of our limited oxygen supply. And with that, my friends, our time together is coming to an end. As always, I would like to thank the writers who let me read their stories this evening. I hope you all can stay safe and out of the glitching situations you found yourself in. Hopefully the programmers will have a patch very soon where we can stop seeing these glitches. Wait, I might be out of a job if they do that. Programmers, please don't give us a patch. I want to keep these stories going on. People seem to really enjoy them. But all joking aside, thank you guys, and I really do hope you stay safe. Now, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications so you don't miss any more uploads. And if you'd like to help this channel / podcast grow, please just share it with anyone who might enjoy it. You'll be surprised how much that helps. As well as doing all these things really helps the algorithm know people enjoy this kind of content, and maybe someone new will find it. And if you'd like to help in other ways, I do have Patreon and memberships, where for $1 a month you get early access to these audios and some bonus stories on top of that. So if it's something that sounds interesting, check out the links down below or that join button. If you just would like to buy me a coffee or do a one-time donation, I have PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee, ironically named after what I said. And I also have merch, which you can see down below as well. Now, last but never least, I would truly love a comment, but I gotta get you that Sunday word first. On screen right now is, well, everyone who left me a comment 2 weeks ago. It slowed down because I stopped doing it for a little bit, but please guys, I really enjoy reading these comments and I love to see how you use the words I give. But thank you September Dragon Audio, who did use the Sunday word from 2 weeks ago. And this Sunday's word is shatter, S-H-A-T-T-E-R, which means to break suddenly or cause something to break suddenly into small pieces. It does have a couple other meanings as well, but that one's good enough. Now, if you'd like to be in next week's photo for sure, write me a sentence down below using this word. And if you're on the podcast, at me at Twitter, 242reads, and same thing, you'll be in next week's photo as well. But as always guys, thank you for watching and listening. I know I say this at the end of every video, and I mean it every single time. Whether you're on the podcast or the YouTube channel, just having people listen to my voice every week is kind of astounding to me. So, thank you guys. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.